keeping you connected in Northeast Wisconsin. You're watching NBC 26 Today.
Coming up, President Trump hosting a rally in Green Bay this Saturday. Why health leaders and Democrats are cautioning against it. And Wisconsin now declared a red zone. What that means as far as the number of coronavirus cases here. And a spike in cases in the United Nations when leaders have found the most cases were contracted. Good Thursday morning. Our meteorologist Gino Recchia joining us from home. What's the weather looking like today?
Well, Emily, it looks like it's going to be a little cooler, but then as we head into tonight, we do have some frost and freeze concerns. We've got that frost advisory for most of the NBC 26 viewing area. Now, farther to the Northwoods, we don't have any, and the reason why is the growing season ended. We had some frost and freeze advisories earlier in September, and since then, well, once it gets down to below 32, we're done with those advisories. Temperature-wise, right now, it's 44 degrees in Green Bay. We've got a light wind out of the west at 7 miles per hour. Our sunrise is coming up pretty shortly. We've got 43 in Antigo, upper 40s across the Fox Valley, even including right along the shoreline. Just a touch warmer, close towards 50 degrees in Fond du Lac and also into Sheboygan. Winds coming in light, not terrible, as what we were seeing yesterday afternoon, gusts exceeding 30 miles per hour at times. A few rain showers are right now moving down to the south associated with a cold front. We've got some clear skies right now over parts, I would say, north of Highway 10, but we're expecting more rain showers to develop right around that area as we get later on into the afternoon with this cold air that's moving down to the south. So keep the umbrellas handy, and you'll see on Skycast, here we are at about 11:15. Then as you get later on into the afternoon and evening, you're starting to see some of these pop-up rain showers. So that looks to be the case as we get later on into the day. Temperature-wise, we'll climb up to right around 54. We're talking more about warmer air coming up.
All right, thanks, Gino. State health officials reported 27 coronavirus deaths yesterday. The previous peak was 22, set back in May. The total deaths now stand at more than 1,300 people in Wisconsin. The latest number of cases is more than 2,300. More than 80% of all cases statewide have already recovered. President Donald Trump is set to have an in-person campaign rally at the Green Bay airport this weekend. The 7-day average of new coronavirus cases is down compared to earlier this week, but it's up more than 4 times when it was to this time last month. Our Ryan Curry has more on the event and what health officials want the public to know.
People want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
but are you not
I've done
worried
a great
about
job as a president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up.
President Trump during Tuesday night's debate defending his decision to hold large campaign rallies while COVID-19 continues to spread.
Are you not worried about the disease issues, sir?
Well, so far, we have had no problem whatsoever.
But the Brown County Health Department is expressing concern over this weekend's rally, especially recently as cases and hospitalizations of COVID-19 surge in Wisconsin.
We are always concerned when it comes to a large event, and we hope that the proper safety measures are taken.
The president's planned trip this coming Saturday will be his 3rd stop in Wisconsin in just the past 2 months. So to get an idea for what these rallies look like during the pandemic, you don't need to go back too far. All you need to do is take a look back at his recent Northeast trip to Oshkosh back in August.
Donald J. Trump.
During that campaign stop, several hundred people crowded close together in an open airport hangar. In a statement, the Trump campaign says, quote, "For the president's outdoor events in Wisconsin, like his other campaign events, everyone attending will receive a temperature check, be provided a mask they are encouraged to wear, and have access to plenty of hand sanitizer." Wisconsin Democrats are urging the president not to host such a large crowd in a state experiencing its worst COVID spike to date.
Making people choose between wanting to see their favorite candidate or the president in person and risking the health of others is a false choice.
The health department says anyone planning on attending the event should strongly consider following safety precautions.
We do make every attempt to reach out to the event organizer, talk about our recommendations to safely put on events such as ensuring social distancing, hand washing, procedures so that people who are sick stay home.
Ryan Curry, NBC 26.
Thank you, Ryan. One Midwestern state has a new warning for its residents, asking them not to travel here. Ohio's governor issued a travel advisory asking residents to not visit 7 states with high positivity rates, including Wisconsin. Wisconsin has been declared a red zone for coronavirus cases. According to the CDC, Wisconsin is number 3 in the country for new cases, behind only California and Texas. Health officials originally said college students in places like Dane County accounted for a large number of cases. The task force report suggests that is not the case anymore.
We need to come together and we all need to row in the same direction. And we need to be really compulsive about masking. We need to take care of ourselves and we need to take care of each other.
Experts say hospitals are enforcing contingency plans and may defer needed care that is not COVID-19. More than 40% of all coronavirus cases among Native Americans in Wisconsin were reported just this month. That's according to the state, with numbers dating back to April. For total numbers in Wisconsin, 38% of the total cases have come in this month. Our Eric Kress spoke with a public health officer from the Oneida Nation.
Wisconsinites just endured the worst month on record as far as positive cases of COVID-19.
We've seen increases in all age groups. And we track data on a daily basis.
Oneida Nation Public Health Officer Michelle Myers says the last few weeks, more and more people from the Oneida Nation have contracted the virus, many having a notion where they likely got it.
When we talk with these folks, they know of an activity, a high-risk activity that they've participated in where they could have gotten it.
Currently, the Department of Health Services reports that 606 Native Americans in Wisconsin contracted COVID-19 in September alone.
The numbers continue to increase as they do in all jurisdictions.
But let's take a look at the trend. Back in April, when DHS started keeping track of Native American COVID-19 cases, the numbers rarely grew more than a dozen from one day to the next, and that trend lasted through August.
We definitely saw an increase during the month of September.
But by the time September hit, COVID cases in Native American populations were increasing by 20, 30, and 40 plus cases nearly every day. And today we know that over 40% of all COVID-19 cases documented so far amongst Native Americans in Wisconsin were contracted in September.
We can do this, but we all need to do this together. Everybody's actions impacts the community, and it has to happen in every community.
In the Oneida Nation, Eric Kress, NBC 26.
Thank you, Eric. DHS reports that 1,381 Native Americans have contracted COVID-19 in Wisconsin. That's an increase of 606 cases in the last month. Still to come, the Brewers lose. What that means for tonight's game against the Dodgers in this best 2 out of 3 series.
Our Oktoberfest party is underway and you're invited. So pour yourself a beer and join us as we celebrate in a big way. And don't forget your appetite, because today we're cooking up some sausages.
Can never forget your appetite, Mr. Foods. We are in a new month, and with the new month, temperatures will continue to cool. Start off with an average high of 63, and we drop down to 50 degrees by Halloween. So yes, some cooler weather is inevitable, but this morning, not too bad to start off the day. We've got temperatures in the lower to mid 40s, but some rain showers are expected before some frost tonight. We'll talk about that coming up.
Happy Thursday. Mr. Food working on something perfect for this season. Let's take a closer look at how he does it.
It's October 1st, and that means there'll be lots of food, music, and lots of beer. And since we're talking about beer, how about if we whip up some beer-basted sausages to help you get your own Oktoberfest party started? It's basically onions sauteed until they're golden, along with spicy mustard and a bit of salt and pepper. We cook our sausages in this until they plump up. Then we let everything simmer in some German beer. Now all you have to do is put on some Papa music, pour yourself a beer, and let the party begin. The combo of the mustard and the beer gives our sausages an old world taste that is wonderful. To get the recipe, visit our website and look for beer-basted sausages. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found an October Festival way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
That did look pretty good. Good one to try. All right, the Milwaukee Brewers lost the first game of their National League wildcard series in Los Angeles yesterday. The Dodgers won that game by a final score of 4-2. The next game takes place tonight. First pitch is at 9:08 p.m. The Brewers must win tonight's game to move on in the postseason. All right, still ahead. Half the battle. The next hurdle health officials must overcome before a vaccine can be distributed.
And we're talking about maybe some snowflakes for parts of Wisconsin. We do see on average just 0.2 of an inch of snow, but there could be some snowflakes over the next 24 hours. We've got temperatures this morning right now in the lower to mid and upper 40s, but it's going to get a lot cooler tonight because we're talking about frost advisories. We'll be breaking that down and when we might see a warm up coming up after the break.
You're watching NBC 26 Today with Brooke Haves and meteorologist Michael Fish.
Good morning, I'm Emily Beyer in for Brooke Haves. Approving a COVID-19 vaccine is only half the battle for health experts. Next, they must determine how to distribute it and who gets it. Sarah Dolph has the story.
The race is on to develop a coronavirus vaccine and distribute it ethically and efficiently. In Massachusetts, the bulk of Acme Dry Ice's business is from vaccine manufacturers.
We've gotten calls as far as California, Seattle, Chicago, Texas.
Several of the leading vaccine contenders must be stored at sub-zero temperatures. UPS building freezer farms. Hospitals and states asked to plan now.
This is definitely probably the most daunting task that we've had to undertake.
The first doses will likely be limited, possibly covering as little as 5% of the country's population.
The first round or 2 or 3 of vaccination won't be sufficient to achieve that level of population immunity.
A CDC advisory group is recommending those initial doses go to healthcare workers and high-risk groups, expanding to others as more doses are manufactured and possibly more vaccines approved.
There are different platforms to deliver the same technology, essentially. So I fully agree that if a vaccine works, we'll likely have multiple vaccines.
All Americans likely will have access to these new weapons in the fight against COVID within a year to a year and a half of their approval. Each phase in the process complex and critical. Sarah Dolph, NBC News.
Thank you, Sarah. Another challenge for health experts, convincing approved vaccines are safe and effective. A recent Pew study finding about 50% of Americans say they'd probably or definitely get a COVID vaccine. That's down about 20 points from May. Caregivers already deal with a lot of stress, and it's rising. The Caregiver Action Network has been seeing more calls coming into its free help desk recently. It says 1 out of every 3 has something to do with a challenge raised by the pandemic.
I actually will hear them breathing, like a deep breath of like sigh of relief almost, and that they're actually feeling better at the end of the call, having just been able to express some of their thoughts, some of their worries.
She says people calling in are expressing a lot of pandemic fatigue. They're overwhelmed because they don't have the same resources or outlets they had previously. The pandemic may also be keeping loved ones at home longer.
Aging in place has gone from being a desire, a wish, to almost a mandate or something that really has to happen, because families are just afraid to have their elderly loved ones put in a nursing home.
He says we need more training and financial support for the caregivers in this situation. The expansion of telehealth has been helpful. One challenge is when caregivers can't be present when that virtual visit is happening, like they would be with an in-person doctor's visit. Experts at the help desk are making sure caregivers focus on their self-care now more than ever. They say you can help any caregivers you know by checking in on them and offering whatever support they need. Turning to weather now, Gino Recchia, you're talking a little bit about snow. You got kind of a mixed bag the next couple of days here.
Yeah, right, Emily. I mean, October is kind of that month where we're transitioning from, summer to fall or a little taste of winter. It's kind of everything in between.
Yeah.
And we're talking, at least for the time being, of some frost advisories this evening. And it's mostly for most of our viewing area, but farther to the northwoods, closer towards the UP, The growing season has ended, but the rest of us, we still haven't seen temperatures so far too cold. But now it looks like some below freezing temperatures for some of us are expected. Frost advisory, so bring those tender plants inside or cover your garden beds if you are going to be perhaps having still the vegetable garden out there. Temperatures are going to be climbing up into the mid-40s or 50s this afternoon. And then we'll start to see those valleys drop down into the lower 30s tonight. And you can see that, especially Fox Valley, even farther northward, where you're seeing those lower valleys into the lower 30s. Then for tomorrow, we'll struggle to reach near 50 degrees outside. So right now it's 44 degrees. We're seeing more of that sunlight in the background. Sunrise officially at 6:51. We're holding values right now in the mid and upper 40s. A little cooler up in Pembine, 39 degrees. We've got upper 40s right along the shoreline, as well as off towards, let's say, Wapaka at 48 degrees. Winds coming in out of the west and northwest about 5 to 10 miles per hour right now. Not terrible, but what we are seeing is a cold front moving southward. We got a few rain showers right now over parts of our southern Fox Valley. Pretty quiet right now over the central and northern part of the state, but you're starting to see and pick up on some of these rain showers, and those are perhaps some lake effect as a cold front moves southward, pulling in more cold air from Canada. So as we get into the rest of the day today, that cold air advecting down south is going to start to spark off a few rain showers. Here we are between about 4 to 5 o'clock. We keep the chance of a few sprinkles until sunset, and then we'll start to see clearing skies overnight tonight, and that's going to allow those temperatures to fall down pretty quickly. And talking about temperatures falling down, some of these rain showers could turn over to some snow showers, and you can see that right along the UP state line where we have cold air moving along the warm waters of Lake Superior, sparking off some of these light rain and snow showers. So for today, our temperatures should be climbing up into the lower 50s to mid 50s, 54 for the high. Northwest winds 10 to 15. We'll have gusts near 20. Then for tonight, we'll drop down to 33 and northwest wind at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Frost and freeze is expected. Then for tomorrow, we'll climb up to 48. North winds at 5 to 10 miles per hour. 50 on Saturday, 52 on Sunday. Then we'll get back up into the upper 50s Monday. And by next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, Emily will be climbing back up into the mid 60s. So a little warmer weather in sight, not too long.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Gino. Still to come on The Move. How the pandemic has pushed many people to pack up, leave home, and move in somewhere new. We got that story next on your Thursday morning. It is 6:21. Good Thursday morning. As the election gets closer, voting-related lawsuits are piling up across the country. Most cases concern the fundamentals of the voting process, with the coronavirus creating obstacles. In Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, people are fighting over the cutoff date for counting mail-in ballots. Lawsuits in North Carolina raise concerns over witness signature requirements. Ohio is dealing with court challenges for ballot drop boxes, and Texas over extra days for early voting. A former Justice Department elections official has tallied 260 lawsuits arising from coronavirus nationwide. If you get political text messages, you might feel like they've been worse lately. Well, new numbers show you're right. RoboKiller, the company that makes robocall blocking software, has counted 1.1 billion political texts for September. That's in addition to 68 million election-related robocalls. It's significantly more than in August. The pandemic has pushed people to pack up and move this year, whether it's adult kids moving back home with their folks, job opportunities, or families leaving the city for more space. Dan Cheneman has the story.
We're starting our trek to Texas.
The Reislings sold their home in Southern California and are now planning roots in Texas.
So we are officially out of California.
Tara was furloughed in May. Her husband, Brandon, still working, suggested they move.
He told me that if we moved to Texas, we could afford to live on his salary.
Reisling didn't want to leave her job and got permission to work remotely once the furlough is over.
Now we can move to Texas, and I can afford to wait for my job to come back.
The pandemic is giving people the push to move, whether it's for financial reasons or the realization they need more space.
In May, we started to see a big shift, people moving out of major cities.
According to recent polls, 1/3 of Americans are considering moving to less densely populated areas. And the number of young adults living with one or more of their parents grew to 26.6 million, an increase of 2.6 million from February. Chuck Kuhn, President and Chief Executive Officer of JK Moving says business is booming.
We've seen a 44% increase in move volume from May through September.
Kuhn recommends shopping around for a mover and asking prospective companies about their COVID-19 policy.
When they go out to the job sites, they're wearing masks, they're wearing gloves. Our trucks are being sterilized daily.
A safe way to move in the midst of a new reality. Dan Sheneman, NBC News.
Thanks, Dan. The CDC says cruise ships overseas are still experiencing outbreaks of coronavirus, so the agency is extending its no-sail order here in the U.S. It was set to expire yesterday, but will go through the end of this month now. It coincides with a voluntary sail suspension announced by the Cruise Lines International Association, which most U.S. ships are under. When the pandemic hit, many cruise ships became quarantine bubbles with several outbreaks. Patio heaters, fire pits, and hot tubs are literally hot commodities heading into winter. Americans are facing the prospect of a winter in which COVID-19 is still a threat. Social distancing measures remain the norm, and many indoor gatherings are restricted or banned. Consumers continue to spend big on home improvement projects right now. That includes ways to make outdoor spaces usable during winter months. It's also driving people to stock up on warm coats and outdoor sports gear like snowshoes and snow tubes. Well, Gino Recchia, that won't be too far long. Just give it a month or two. We'll be there, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few days in September, Emily, that we've been kind of wanting the fire pit. It's been a little chilly,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, I agree. I've been loving it, though. I've been wanting to turn on the fire.
Well, I think tonight might be a perfect day or night to do so, because we're going to be dropping down into the lower 30s by the morning hours tomorrow. Not as cold this morning. We're holding on into lower to mid 40s. However, as we get into the later this evening, we'll be seeing the cooler temperatures. Rain showers moving down to the south. We've got a chance of additional rain showers, but also perhaps if you want to do something fun, it's homemade cookies day. So maybe bake some chocolate chip cookies.
Keeping you connected in Northeast Wisconsin. You're watching NBC 26 Today.
Coming up, the push for virtual learning, why more teachers are urging the state to end in-person classes, and why some landlords are pushing to end the CDC's eviction moratorium, what they say tenants need instead, and outdoor dining as the weather gets colder, what that could mean for restaurants. Good Thursday morning. Our meteorologist Gino Recchia joining us from his home studio. What's the weather looking like today?
Well, Emily, we are going to be tracking some cool temperatures overnight tonight after struggling to see highs into the mid-50s today. So it does appear that you might want to cover your plants outside because of these frost advisories. Now, farther to the north into the far northwoods, no frost advisories because you folks have already seen your frost and freeze. So the growing season has ended. The rest of us haven't seen cold enough conditions until perhaps maybe as we head into tonight. 44 right now in Green Bay with a wind out of the west at 7 miles per hour. Our sunrise at 6:51. We are holding on into values into the mid and upper 40s. A little bit cooler right now in Oconto at 37, 39 right now in Pembine. Values right now holding on. Winds coming in out of the west at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. We'll see those winds start to increase just a touch as we get on later into the afternoon with that cold front. Rain showers moving down to the south. I'll be talking about when we might see a little warmer weather coming up.
All right, thanks, Gino. 8 separate shootings are under investigation right now across Milwaukee. In those 8 incidents, police say 16 people were injured and 2 people have been killed in the span of just 12 hours. 7 of those people were hit by gunfire outside of a funeral home on the city's north side. They were attending the funeral of a man who was killed in a shooting from over the weekend.
It's the insanity of people solving their problems with guns. It is just completely insane.
The victims range in age from 20 to 48 years old and were all taken to local hospitals for their injuries. They are all expected to survive. In separate shootings, a 17-year-old was killed on Milwaukee's south side yesterday, and another man was killed by gunshots around 11:30 last night. As Wisconsin sets new records for the average number of coronavirus cases per day, some teachers' unions want state health officials to move all schools in the state to full virtual instruction. Teachers' unions from Green Bay, Milwaukee, Kenosha, Racine, and Madison urge the state to move to 100% virtual learning. But during a state briefing, Governor Tony Evers seemed unlikely to issue a state order moving all schools online.
We're here this afternoon calling on the Wisconsin Department of Health Services to do their job and protect Wisconsinites.
I still support their ability, but people have to recognize this isn't just about the schools. We're operating under community spread.
Jim Bender with School Choice Wisconsin says those decisions are best made at the local level and based on local data. State numbers show that thankfully no one under 20 years old has died of coronavirus in Wisconsin. Kids who are learning from home might not want to ask their parents for homework help. Of the 2,000 parents asked in a new survey, 42% said they would be lost trying to help their kid with math. 35% said the same for science. 40% of parents in the survey also admitted not knowing that STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. Marcus Theaters will temporarily close 17 of the 72 theaters it recently reopened, including one in our area. According to the website, Marcus Green Bay East Cinema is temporarily closed. The Milwaukee-based theater chain says business is down because Hollywood Studios delayed most of this year's major releases due to the pandemic. Colder weather usually means spending less time outside, but what would that mean for outdoor dining? Some places might have found the solution. Outdoor fire pits. More restaurants and bars are creating patios and warm outside spaces. One local store says demand for these has never been higher. Starting today, both American and United Airlines will start furloughing more than 32,000 workers. Both fly out of Green Bay Austin Straubel Airport and the Appleton International Airport. This comes after lawmakers in Washington could not come up with a new federal relief package. Both companies say they could reverse course if a deal is reached in the next few days. Other airlines could soon follow suit, leaving tens of thousands more pilots, flight attendants, and ticket counter and ramp workers without a job.
The last thing we want to do is furlough employees. That's why we've been fighting so hard for them to come to an agreement.
U.S. air travel remains down nearly 70% from a year ago. Still to come, it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. What doctors say you shouldn't put off your screenings despite the coronavirus pandemic.
And we are talking about some cooler weather on the way, and we are in a new month. Average temperature drops from 63 down to 50 degrees by Halloween. Well, tomorrow morning, we might be seeing values down into the lower 30s. Not as cold this morning as you head out the door, but might need the umbrella. We'll be talking about that as we see some rain showers coming up in the full forecast.
To the rebound now. Some landlords are going to court to try to end the CDC's eviction moratorium. It blocks tenants from being kicked out for not paying rent. Alicia Neves has more on the help landlords say tenants need instead and how quickly they are hoping to get the moratorium to end.
Millions of renters are safe from eviction after the CDC issued an eviction moratorium at the beginning of September. But landlords like Andy Orfatelli in Florida,
my lender wants his money,
to Rebecca Welsh in Kentucky, are saying they cannot afford this moratorium mandate.
I mean, literally right now, I'm supporting probably three households, not just mine. Pregnant.
We're concerned that an order like this could force many operators into bankruptcy, and those properties could be lost.
Bob Penninger is with the National Apartment Association, which has joined landlords in at least 3 states in a lawsuit against the CDC's federal ban on most evictions.
We were forced into this situation with the inaction of Congress in putting together a stimulus package, and then the combination of the CDC order laid over the top of that has forced us to where we have to take legal action.
Are you saying that in the middle of a pandemic, people should be allowed to be evicted and in some cases put on the street with little or no protection? Or are you saying that a government mandate to this extent cannot go unfunded?
This is really to try to force Congress to get back to the table and talk about a solution here.
The National Apartment Association wants a stimulus package with money allocated to renters instead of a moratorium because the money would trickle down to help landlords pay their mortgages and keep their property.
If Congress doesn't act, what happens?
You're going to begin to see operators move to the brink of foreclosure.
The courts are expected to rule on the lawsuit against the CDC by the end of October, and there is a chance the court could block or end the eviction moratorium at that time. I'm Alicia Nieves reporting.
Today kicks off Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and one doctor says patients shouldn't skip screenings over COVID-19 concerns. Because of the pandemic, thousands of people have been putting off getting their screenings done, worried about getting COVID at the doctor's office. But Dr. Nina Desnay says the benefits of getting your screening done now greatly outweighs the risks of getting exposed to the virus.
Honestly, I am worried because like I said, we know that when a patient has a cancer detected early, not only does that just impact their overall prognosis, but it also potentially allows for less aggressive treatment, more options potentially for how we treat and manage this.
Dr. Desnay says data shows there could be more than 10,000 excess deaths due to breast and colon cancer in the next decade due to the coronavirus pandemic. Still ahead, remote work reimbursement. Why companies may want to pay employees back for the expenses of working from home.
Well, do you know that in October we see on average just 0.2 of an inch of snow? Well, I don't think we're going to be seeing accumulating snow, but some areas might pick up or see some of the first snowflakes of the season. Not too cold this morning, temperatures in the mid and upper 40s, but we're talking about some frost overnight tonight. I'll tell you what we can expect and who sees the frost advisories.
Good morning. Coming up on Today, we'll have the latest fallout from that chaotic first debate. This morning, how debates could change moving forward. Plus, just in time for the holidays, a new competitor in the online shopping wars. So how does Walmart's membership program stack up against Amazon Prime when it comes to price and speed and convenience? Well, Vicki Nguyen decided to put those two to the test. And then the definition of pink power as Breast Cancer Awareness Month gets underway. Our Kristen Dahlgren, who is a survivor herself, shares the innovative procedure giving women the chance to feel like themselves again after surgery. That and more, we see you in just a bit, right here on Today.
You're watching NBC 26 Today with Brooke Haves and meteorologist Michael Fish.
Good morning, I'm Emily Beyer in for Brooke Haves. If employers have offered reimbursements for remote work, now might be the time to revisit them. For companies that haven't offered any at all yet, they may want to consider a policy.
A lot of the policies that, in my own experience, that I've seen are more for temporary, maybe flexible or work home as needed. They weren't meant for long-term work from home.
Temporary policies tend to offer more general guidelines for reimbursements. For the long term, employers should think about standardizing those amounts. Look at the average rates for high-speed internet in your area. Revisiting those policies also allows companies to double check if they're in compliance with local laws. Some states require employers to pay workers for certain expenses. In all states, companies must reimburse minimum wage workers for job-related costs.
So if you have non-exempt workers who are having to provide their own monitors, their own equipment, even expenses that they might not otherwise incur, like high-speed internet, these are things that you need to double check. Don't come out of pocket so significantly that it reduces the worker below the applicable minimum wage.
Employers may also now want to consider covering expenses for a more efficient and comfortable workspace at home, like extra monitors or ergonomic chairs to avoid long-term injuries. Workers can also approach their employer on reimbursements.
Kind of have some prepared arguments to kind of defend your position, not just so much of coming off of, I want X amount of money. It's more in, hey, looking at things and expenses, this is going on longer. This is more of a business need.
And if you're working from home for your own convenience, your employer may argue against reimbursements. It's different if it's a company decision. Working from home can impact the relationships you have with coworkers. Experts say work is the place where we make the most friends, but it is also the place where most friendships end. Research shows interactions at work give people a sense of belonging to their job. A Gallup survey showed about half of people who said they had a work best friend also said they were passionate about their job. October is National Fire Prevention Month, and as we head into the colder months and people start to use things like heaters and fireplaces around the house, it's important to be aware of what can cause a fire. Experts recommend you check your fire alarms and smoke detectors to make sure they're working. JetBlue is not waiting for the holidays to launch some holiday deals. The discounts include $50 off per person on holiday flights and $300 off per flight and hotel package. You can find these deals when you book a flight through JetBlue Vacations on its digital platform. These are for flights booked for November 19th through January 5th. Amazon is launching a new service called Amazon Explore that lets customers book live virtual experiences led by local experts. The events include virtual tours of far-off destinations or landmarks, cooking classes, or shopping local boutiques around the world. Amazon Explore sessions are currently being offered on an invite-only basis. They range from 30 to 60 minutes and pricing varies. Turning to weather now. Gino, you love to cook. You'd probably love one of those cooking classes, huh?
You know, I've never done a cooking class, but typically kind of what I tend to do when I want to go, when I want to go like outside the scope, I just go on YouTube and watch a video. Or sometimes I do have a couple cooking books as well. What about you? Have you gone to a cooking class?
There you go. I have taken a cooking class. It was a lot of fun. And I think this is the time of year that I want to make soup because the colder weather is on the way.
Exactly. Make plenty of it because we're going to be seeing some pretty cool weather over the next couple of days. Talking about cool weather, how about this? We got that frost advisory in effect overnight tonight, and that is going to allow those temperatures to really fall down into the lower 30s. We've got, if you have tendered plants, bring them inside. Also, maybe you got still the vegetable garden still happen to be growing, cover it up overnight. Afternoon highs will be into the lower to mid 50s, but then as you get into tonight, we'll drop it down into the lower 30s and maybe a few locations into the upper 20s. Then for tomorrow, we'll struggle to reach near 50. It is 44 degrees right now outside. We've got a wind out of the west at 7 miles per hour, sunset, and about 5 minutes or so. Sunset tonight at 6:32. We are holding on to 39 in Pembine, upper 40s right now along the shoreline, and mid and upper 40s elsewhere across the Fox Valley. So not too terrible start to the day. Winds also not too breezy, but they are coming in out of the west and northwest, so that is going to pull in that cooler air mass. Rain showers have been dealt with along the southern Fox Valley, but they're starting to backbuild a little bit as we have a cold front moving in here. So the umbrella will be handy today. Same thing over the last couple of days where we had some scattered rain showers. Cold front moving in here, and behind it, that's what's really going to allow those temperatures to plummet down into the 30s overnight tonight. So as we get into the late morning and early afternoon, scattered rain showers are going to persist. And then as we get into tonight, that's when the air mass will start to stabilize. We'll see some clearing skies and temperatures will fall down into the 30s. And then for tomorrow, it doesn't look too bad of a day. A little mix of sun and clouds, maybe a stray shower. But it does appear most of that activity should be holding on closer towards the lake shore. But with colder temperatures tonight and warm air or cold air moving over the relatively warm air of the lakes, how about this? Perhaps a few snowflakes over parts of far northern Wisconsin and into parts of the UP. So something we haven't seen so far this season. Temperature-wise, we will climb up to high right around 54. Northwest winds 10 to 15, gusts near 20. Tonight we'll cool down to 33 with a northwest wind at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tomorrow we'll climb up to high near 48, so a few locations getting close to 50 degrees. North winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Saturday, 50. Chance of a few stray showers. Same thing on Sunday. And then as we get towards Monday, might have a stray shower, but it does look like more so sunshine, 58, and then we get back up into the mid-60s as we get towards Tuesday and Wednesday next week, Emily. So not done with the mild weather just yet.
All right, thanks, Gino. All right, still to come with President Trump planning a rally in Green Bay this weekend, what health leaders say should be done. But first, let's take a live look outside on our Green Bay tower cam. Gino was right, that sunrise coming up here right now. You're watching NBC 26 Today. Stay with us. In today's top story, state health officials reported 27 coronavirus deaths yesterday. The previous peak was 22, set back in May. The total deaths now stand at more than 1,300 people in Wisconsin. The latest number of cases is more than 2,300. More than 80% of all cases statewide have already recovered. Wisconsin has been declared a red zone for coronavirus cases. According to the CDC, Wisconsin is number 3 in the country for new cases, behind only California and Texas. Health officials originally said college students in places like Dane County accounted for a large number of cases. The task force report suggests that is not the case anymore.
We need to come together and we all need to row in the same direction. And we need to be really compulsive about masking. We need to take care of ourselves and we need to take care of each other.
Experts say hospitals are enforcing contingency plans and may defer needed care that is not COVID-19. President Donald Trump is set to have an in-person campaign rally at the Green Bay Airport this weekend. The Brown County Health Department is expressing concern as cases and hospitalizations of COVID-19 surge in the area. Wisconsin Democrats are urging the president not to host such a large crowd in a state experiencing its worst COVID spike to date.
We do make every attempt to reach out to the event organizer, talk about our recommendations to safely put on events such as ensuring social distancing, hand washing procedures so that people who are sick stay home.
Everyone attending the rally will receive a temperature check, will have access to hand sanitizer, and will be encouraged to wear masks. Data from the Department of Health Services suggests that just over 40% of the COVID-19 cases in Wisconsin's Native American population was contracted in September. Looking at the numbers that stretch back to April, it was rare for there to be more than a dozen new cases from one day to the next throughout August. But once September hit, positive cases amongst Native Americans would rise by as many as 47 cases a day.
When we talk with these folks, they know of an activity, a high-risk activity that they've participated in where they could have gotten it. You know, everyone's tired, but it's so important that we maintain what we're doing, these preventive measures. We know how to stop this. We know masking works. We know social distancing works.
According to the DHS, 1,381 Native Americans in Wisconsin have contracted the virus so far. 606 tested positive for COVID this month alone. One Midwestern state has a new warning for its residents, asking them not to travel here. Ohio's governor issued a travel advisory asking residents to not visit 7 states with high positivity rates, including Wisconsin. As Wisconsin sets new records for the average number of coronavirus cases per day, some teachers' unions want state health officials to move all schools in the state to full virtual instruction. Teachers' unions from Green Bay, Milwaukee, Kenosha, Racine, and Madison urge the state to move to 100% virtual learning. But during a state briefing, Governor Tony Evers seemed unlikely to issue a state order moving all schools online.
We're here this afternoon calling on the Wisconsin Department of Health Services to do their job and protect Wisconsinites.
I still support their ability, but people have to recognize this isn't just about the schools. We're operating under community spread.
Jim Bender with School Choice Wisconsin says those decisions are best made at the local level and based on local data. State numbers show that thankfully no one under 20 years old has died of coronavirus in Wisconsin. The Milwaukee Brewers lost the first game of their National League Wild Card Series in Los Angeles yesterday. The Dodgers won that game by a final score of 4-2. The next game takes place tonight. First pitch is at 9:08 p.m. The Brewers must win tonight's game to move on in the postseason. October is Fall Car Care Month. Experts say this is the perfect time to get your car ready for winter weather. That means check your tire treads and tire pressure, get new winter tires if you need them. Also, make sure your car's battery is working properly and fill up on windshield wiper fluid. Gino, that cooler weather, it's coming.
It sure is, and we do have frost advisories for many locations overnight tonight. So I would suggest bring those plants inside, but it's not too cold this morning. We're holding on to values into the mid and upper 40s. It does look like we'll warm up right around, I would say, the lower to mid 50s out there. A little bit of rainfall once again today, so I would suggest grabbing the umbrella and perhaps the rain jacket as you head out the door. We will be seeing some scattered rain showers as you go into the afternoon and evening hours. And then as you get later on tonight, it looks like that's when the skies will start to clear out. And that's when we'll see those temperatures drop down into the lower 30s out there. So temperature-wise, we'll climb up to high right around 54, a northwest wind at 10 to 15 miles per hour, a low gust upwards of 20. And then for tonight, we'll drop down to 33, frost and freeze expected. So, tender those plants, Emily.
All right, thank you so much for watching NBC 26 Today. The Today Show starts now.